Mario has been in thousands of video games, from the good old side-scrolling platforming days of old, to genres that Mario doesn't seem to fit in, such as RPGs or even sports games. Yet only some of Mario's adventures have made a big impact in the video game industry. One of those games, without a doubt, is the famous Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. With its many revolutionary mechanics such as its hub world and rotating camera, it became the standard for 3D platformers back then and even today. With such a legacy, I imagine it was hard crafting this game during the development. That's why today, we're going to take a look at the beta and development of Super Mario 64, as well as its remake on the Nintendo DS, Super Mario 64 DS. One point I had to get across is a rumor surrounding Super Mario 64's earliest development. Supposedly, Shigeru Miyamoto started Super Mario 64's development during the Super Nintendo/Famicom days. This game was called Super Mario FX, and was going to use a more enhanced version of the Super FX chip used in games on the Super Nintendo. Using this chip, the team was going to create a 3D Mario game on the Super Nintendo, and would have been the first 3D Mario game that would have been made. The game would have used the Super FX2 chip, which was used in games like Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island and Doom on the Super Nintendo. So, where is this supposed game? Well, it doesn't exist. There never has been actual proof that this game supposedly was in development at the time of making this video, even though countless video game history books and multiple websites point to this. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the game's files, let's take a look at several videos that were filmed during Shoshinkai 1995 and E3 1996. For those of you who don't know what Shoshinkai is, allow me to explain. Shoshinkai was a video game trading show hosted by Nintendo in Japan. In this trading show, Nintendo showed off the latest games that they were making, as well as new systems they were making as well. Anybody could get into the trading show, you would just need a pass from an official Nintendo retail store in Japan. The very first Shoshinkai was the 1995 one, where the Nintendo 64, or at the time the Ultra 64, a Kirby Ball 64 prototype, and obviously the Super Mario 64 prototype was shown off to the public. This video already shows us many things that are different compared to the final release. If you take a closer look, you can see the HUD for Mario's life counter, the star counter, and the coin counter have different icons and are much closer to the middle of the screen compared to the final game. Later on in the video, Mario takes damage from falling, and we can see his health icon is drastically different from the final game. Instead of pie pieces for Mario's health, it seems to be a meter of some sort, with the counter being in the middle of the icon. The icon itself is not in the shape of Mario's head as well, and the phrase "power" is all in red instead of rainbow colored. When the camera moves over to another TV, we can see that someone's playing in the courtyard of Peach's castle. More differences are shown here as, for example, the glass painting of Peach in front of Peach's castle is completely missing. In its place is what seems to be some sort of compass or clock maybe? I'm not sure why you would put a clock or a compass in front of Peach's castle, so I'm going to assume that that was maybe a placeholder of some sort. And if you look closely here, you can see that there's no water in the moat around the castle as well. The water can be drained in the final game, but I don't think you would have the time to get to that part of the game, as to deactivate the water, you would need to defeat at least the first Bowser boss fight. No one would have the time to do that during a demo, so it's possible that the water was not implemented yet, or they deactivated it for the demo. Now here's where the stuff gets interesting. The inside of the castle is completely different, at least in aesthetics. The textures of the walls are a dark hue of blue, and the checkerboard texture on the floor as well as the sun texture has been replaced by a giant red carpet. The star counter on the doors are very simple compared to their final versions, as they are missing the star texture on them. And according to the video footage here, this door leads to the Lethal Lava Land course, which changed in the final game, as Lethal Lava Land was put in the basement of the castle, and where Lethal Lava Land is in the demo, is now the entrance to Whomp's Fortress in the final. Let me just say for the record that a lot of stages got mixed around in the beta, so I'll be pointing them out as we go along. Let's stick to Peach's castle in the meantime. If we fast forward this video, Mario comes out of the Cool Mountain course and heads out the door. The problem here is that he's coming out of the door on the right side on the stairway, which is totally different compared to the final game. This door is supposed to be Bob-omb Battlefield, while Cool Mountain is supposed to be near the left stairway. The stairway to the second level seems to have changed as well. If we freeze the video right here, we can see that instead of a stairway to the second level, there's just 2 blocks that you have to jump on instead. They probably changed this so the player would have an easier time moving to the second level, plus, having 2 blocks to jump on does ruin the fluidity of the game by a little bit. Near the big door leading to the second level of the castle, we can see what looks to be a texture of a moon on the left and the star on the right. Since the textures on the walls were replaced with a happy, sunny hill setting with the clouds in the final, they probably removed these textures along with the dark blue background. One thing that hasn't changed in terms of course locations is Jolly Roger Bay, as both versions of the game have it in the same exact place, which is the door on the right stairway. Now that we've finished up with Peach's castle, let's see if we can get a good look at some of the changes that were done to some of the stages. First up is Lethal Lava Land. As soon as Mario lands on the platform in the world, we can already see some differences. Mario's spawning point has been altered because in the final game, the platform that Mario spawns on has, well, only this sign. And instead, Mario's spawning point is on a separate platform on the right side, which is not even in the beta version of the game. As the person pans the camera to the right, we can see more of the level and there are more changes in the beta. Comparing these 2 pictures, you can see that this hump platform is missing in the beta, as well as this platform on the left. The coins under the bridge are missing as well in the beta. Up next is the very cool mountain, and just like Lethal Lava Land, we can already see some differences off the bat. For instance, the hut for going down into the slide section is completely missing. The hole for going down to the slide section is instead on the left in the ground. Oh, and some trees are missing as well. Those are of no significance, but I figure I'd point them out anyways. The slide section is completely different, however. Wait a minute. This slide layer looks familiar. Oh wait! This slide doesn't even belong to Cool Mountain in the final. This should be on the Tall Mountain course. Judging by only this short length of video footage though, I'm going to assume that the slide was only altered a little. It is possible that the slide might have changed, but we're not going to see them here due to the player falling off the slide really early in the beginning of the slide. Back to Cool Mountain, the layout and the entire design of the stage is completely different from the final game. In fact, if you look at this screenshot and compare it with this freeze frame of the beta of the game, they don't even look remotely similar, even though this is nearly on the same side of the mountain. As you can see here, there are a bunch of block platforms that go up the mountain to where the star is sitting, which are missing. The house where you come out of after sliding down the slide section of the level is missing too, meaning that it's possible that they added the exit just in case players might have went down the slide by accident and didn't want to get the slide star. Let's romp our way down to Womp's Fortress to see some differences in this famous level. The ramp heading up seems to be missing its arrow textures that point for you to go up, as well as this sign. The carpet texture seems to be added here as well for some reason, and the guard fences are missing. When the player fails to make a jump here, he then decides to use the cannon to get Mario up to the platform instead. What's interesting about that is, as you can recall in the original game, you would need to talk to this Bob-omb buddy in order to open the cannon for you. However, we can clearly see that Mario just jumps in the cannon that's open and free for anyone to use. It's possible that Bob-omb buddies weren't made yet, or just deactivated for this demo. Speaking of the cannon, besides the obvious lack of crosshair reticles needed for aiming, there is one more thing that makes this cannon special compared to the final game, and it doesn't even have to do with the cannon itself. What's different about it is when Mario's fired out of it. Usually when Mario's fired out of the cannon, he goes into this free fall animation and you only go forward in an arc. While in the beta, he shot out of the cannon and then... wait, what was that? Huh. Mario seems to go into a gliding state after a few seconds of being shot out of the cannon. This may have been implemented due to the lack of crosshairs in the beta so players can land where they want to land, instead of blindly shooting and hoping you land where you wanted. The problem with this? I believe players might have used this gliding mechanic to get to places where they're either not supposed to, or to get to stars too easily without having to go through the obstacles. Thus, it was removed. The video cuts away to Mario swimming in some sort of water level. While there are many water levels in the final, if you look really closely, you can see this is the second part of Dire Docks, where Mario boards Bowser's submarine. As is normal for a demo of a game, The girders used to hold up the moving poles for the red coins are either removed or disabled for the demo. These platforms that Mario jumps on here have been changed to timed blocks in the final, probably to give the player a harder challenge rather than leisurely stroll across the platform. And this is gonna be the first time we see the beta star in its full glory. Taking a closer look, this star seems to be a rotating sprite when, in the final, it's a full-fledged 3D polygon star. However, they both use the same animation, right down to even the code being the same. Last thing to look at is this footage taken sometime between Shoshinkai and E3 1996. While not beta-filled as the previous footage from before, there are some noteworthy things about this footage. First of all, the scene here where Mario is swimming in Dire Dire Docks is missing its whirlpool that sucks you in between the three chests here. And the other thing is this short footage of the Beta Bowser boss fight. While nothing seems to have changed, the prize he gives you after defeating him is very different. If you recall in the original game, he gave you a key so that you can access more levels of the castle, unless it was the final Bowser boss fight. When he poofs out of existence here, he leaves coins and a star. What makes this interesting is the coins in particular. It's possible that this idea where Bowser leaves coins was scrapped really late in the game. Slowing down the game footage, you can see what appears to be coins flying out of the key, but you don't find coins later on after getting control of Mario again. Given the fact that the Beta Bowser boss fight gave you coins and the final has coins fly out of him, the idea was probably scrapped really late in development. Before we fast forward to the 1996 E3 conference, there is a little thing we have to address, and it's the most important part of Mario, and that's his voice. I'm willing to bet most of you are used to the "It's-a me, Mario" Italian-ish accent that's prevalent now with the modern Mario games. His beta voice is, very squeaky. Like, really, really squeaky. If you don't believe me, take a look at this video for a few minutes. Totally different from the Mamma Mia sound, ain't it? Well, that's because Nintendo, at this point in time, didn't really have a voice actor for Mario. They were trying to find one through multiple voice auditions, and they just so happened to come across the perfect guy right as they were packing up to leave for one of them. This guy's name is Charles Martinet, and he's been voicing most of the Mario cast for what seems like forever at this point. However, Charles didn't even know about the Super Mario franchise beforehand, and went to the voice actor audition on a whim. But don't take it from me. Let's hear the story from Charles Martinet himself from a Nintendo Life interview. Take it away, Charles.
I had never heard of Mario. I had never heard of Nintendo. I was doing what all the actors do, waiting for the phone to ring, and I'm out there on the beach. The phone rings. I'm like, what about that? Hello? And it was a friend of mine who said, "You've got to go do this audition. It's for a trade show in Las Vegas, and it's going to be great. I'm going to be in the show. You got to go." And I said, "There's absolutely no way I would ever crash an audition. Where do I go?" And I have no idea, but I actually went, and I was walking in the door as the producer and director and the cameraman were walking out with the camera under the arm, and I said, can I read for this part? And he looks at me and goes, "All right, come on in. Look, you're an Italian plumber from Brooklyn, okay? So you're this video game character, and we're gonna glue things to your face, and when you talk, this real-time animation system is gonna make this video game character talk at the same time. So you go, 'Hey, how you doing? My name is Mario,' and it should do the same thing based on your movements of your face. We have no idea if this is gonna work or not, but you're gonna be interacting with audiences all day long. So start talking, make up a voice, make up a video game, whatever you want. Stop talking whenever you run out of things to say, and that's your audition." And I thought to myself, Italian plumber from Brooklyn. Get out of my face, don't bother me, And I thought, nah, I don't want to. If I was sitting there all day long talking with their children, I believe in fun for comedy. So I thought, well, I'll make a voice that's more fun. And I had played Gremio in Taming of the Shrew many years before. Nice Italian guy, talk like this. And I thought, I can make that younger, and then I'll just talk like that. But I know absolutely nothing about video games. except, you know, bong, 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 you know, and waka, 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 waka. And so my limited knowledge said, well, oh, I forgot, asteroids, stok, right? So I thought, I'll just make something up, and but I have no idea what. All of a sudden, I heard action. I said, "Hello, I'm Mario. Let's make a pizza pie together," you know. And I started making up this game, and I was having so much fun with the voice because it was like so fun and so, you know, just playful and energetic. And I thought, well, I'll just keep going because I'm sure he's going to say stop, and he didn't. And so I said, well, if you're not going to say stop, then I'll keep going. And then we'll ride the kitchen sink down the hill. And if I catch you with the kitchen sink, you have to push the kitchen sink up the hill and chase me with the kitchen sink. And I just kept going and going and going until I finally heard, stop talking. Cut. There's no more videotape. Thank you. We'll be in touch. And I thought, that's the kiss of death. You know, goodbye actor, out the door. And I went back to the beach. I watched the sunset. He got on the phone. He called Nintendo. He said, I found our Mario. I got him. And he only sent up my tape. And that was 25 years ago. Almost before you were born, young man.
Another fun fact about the origins of Mario's voice is that this is not even the first game that had his spicy Italian meatball accent. In fact, the first game to ever have Mario's voice was a horrible spin-off game called Mario's Gigaleak for the PCs, back in 1995.
Nice to see you again!
Fast forwarding to E3 1996, and the game is taking shape of the game we know now. In fact, almost everything here is accounted for. The checkerboard floors, the bright blue walls with clouds, the sun texture on the floor, the star counter on the doors, and even the levels are in the correct places, as far as we can see. There's not much that I can note in this footage as everything from the original game seems to be here, and there aren't any drastic changes as far as I can see. So let's move on to the actual scrap stuff that's left in Super Mario 64's coding. As always, I'll be talking about the more interesting things that were left in the game. If you want to see more of the weird oddities like these unreachable coins in Super Mario 64, I'll have a link in the description for you guys. First off, is a cool unused behavior behind all of the paintings in the castle. In the game, there's a level called a wet dry world, and this stage has a gimmick where, depending on where you enter the painting low, high, or middle, the water level will raise to the same degree. Well, believe it or not, all of the paintings in the castle were supposed to act this way. Kind of. Take this painting of Bob-omb Battlefield for example. Depending whether you enter the left, right, or middle of the painting, Mario would enter the stage on different spawning points within the level. But, since in the final game, Mario has always spawned in the same place. Thus, this mechanic goes unused in the game. Next up is unused enemies. First up is an old returning enemy from Super Mario World, Blug. Blug here was supposed to be in, obviously, Lethal Lava Land. As you can see, it's eyeless and completely untextured. The only animations of it are floating in the lava and jumping out of it. Next are these tiny chili bullies. Regular bullies are of small and large proportions in the game, but the only chili bully found in Snowman's Land is a large one. These are basically a smaller version of that chili bully. As to the reason why they were scrapped, I have no clue. This is the last of the unused, enemies? I wouldn't really call this an enemy though. It's a water mine. These act similarly to the giant bombs found in the Bowser boss fights and float in the water, acting as a sort of barrier when swimming around. Not really sure why they were removed though. Cool Mountain actually hides a little secret behind its slide section, and that is some of the objects have been weirdly placed within this part of the level. These include a butterfly, an open cannon, several coins, a jumping fireball, which seems bizarre for an ice level, a destructible ice square, spin drifts, 2D stars that are similar to the ones that we found in the Shoshinkai footage, and a 3-star door. These objects kind of give off the fact that the slide may have been another part of the level. There's no way to bring these objects into the real game though. They seem to be all hard-coded not to appear at all. Let's check out some unused text. These lines of text were supposed to be played when Mario entered Big Boo's haunt for the first time. As you can see, these unused lines were translated for both the English and French release, but not the German release for some reason. Located at the very beginning of the game's text is this stage select menu, which, by the way, is the same text used during the Shoshinkai demo when players wanted to jump to another level immediately. Due to there being a working stage select within the debug menu of Super Mario 64, it can't be used now, unfortunately. The last thing I want to talk about is unused objects, which all of them are really interesting. First up is this key and its icon. This key was actually going to be used in the Big Boo's Haunt course, and according to the screenshot of the Shoshinkai version of the game, it was going to be held by this Big Boo. The purpose of this key was probably to access more areas of the mansion, or even the second level of the mansion. While the key itself goes unused, the icon itself is very different for every version of the game. The Japanese version has this icon, while the European version has this icon, and the US version has the icon completely removed. These Koopa shells are oddly textured with blue bonds, but are completely non-functional, so there's not really any use to them. This trampoline actually doesn't have a model, so this picture is only just a mock-up of what it might have looked like. Really, the only thing that is left of this trampoline are the textures themselves and the coded behavior of it. The code doesn't really work properly due to only some of the code being made, and it doesn't affect Mario in any way. There are multiple versions of switch colors and transparent boxes that usually contain either a wing cap, a metal cap, or a vanish cap. This yellow switch and transparent box goes unused, but if you think about it, this might have hinted at the fact that there would have been a fourth cap Mario could have worn. I mean, every switch activates a certain transparent box color, which would have a cap power-up inside. Given this fact, it's not too far-fetched to think that there might have been a fourth cap power-up that Mario would have used. I've saved the best scrapped object for last, and it's this bouncing egg. Now, for anyone who knows the Mario series, they would recognize that this is a Yoshi egg. In the final game, Yoshi is only an Easter egg on top of the castle, and he just maxes out your lives when you talk to him, and then jumps off and then disappears. This egg probably means that Yoshi was probably a playable character, or in the game in some playable form. We can even confirm this from what Miyamoto said in Super Mario 64's official Japanese strategy guide, and I quote, "There was originally an event with Yoshi. We weren't satisfied with how it came out though, so we removed it. But since it would be a waste not to use the model we had made, we included him there at the end." Now, I know that there exists a Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64 disk drive out there, but according to what I found and seen, it's almost one-to-one of the cartridge game, and there's almost nothing within the game other than these 6 weird unused graphic files. Before we move on though, I have to mention the infamous L is Real 2401 hoax. Back then, when Super Mario 64 was still relatively new, there was a rumor of Luigi actually being in the game. This all has to do with this star in the courtyard of the castle where the Boos are roaming about. On the star's pedestal, you can kind of make out the phrase L is Real 2401. Players took this as L equaling Luigi, and you might have to get 2401 of something in order to unlock him. The rumor seems to have been started from this webpage made by a user named Hairball, giving specific directions on how to unlock Luigi, and even giving convincing screenshots at the time. Many players tried unlocking him through other means ranging from collecting 2401 coins to even secret boss fights. It didn't help either when IGN gave a $100 bounty to anyone who can prove Luigi was in the game. Unfortunately for them, no hard solid proof came in, thus it was considered a fake. Some people even think that the number 2401 refers to Paper Mario's North American release date, February 4, 2001. Luigi does appear in that game, though as a non-playable character. This is still false though. Japan would get the game on August 11, 2001, and the game was supposed to be released in North America on December 26, 2002. This rumor might have been true due to the circumstances if it was released one day earlier, because its North American release date is February 5th, 2001. So, what does this phrase even mean in the first place? Well, nothing actually. Somebody in 1998 sent a letter to Nintendo asking about the meaning of this phrase. Game counselor Michael D. Chandler had this to say on the matter. So, is Luigi in the game? No, but he was planned to. Thanks to another translated interview of Miyamoto, we know that Luigi was in the game as a co-op character. The Nintendo 64 wasn't powerful enough to make this co-op mechanic happen, though. And I quote, "Well, until February, he was in the game. Ultimately, due to memory issues, we had to take him out. Then, we were going to include him in a Mario Bros. Style minigame, but because most users probably only had that one controller when they first buy their Nintendo 64, for that reason, and others, we decided not to. We're not done yet though. We still have to tackle on the beta of Super Mario 64's DS port. I'll be honest though, there aren't many things that the beta of the DS port actually adds, but let's check out two footages taken from E3 2004 anyways. This footage taken from E3 2004 shows us the very first development stages of Super Mario 64 DS, which was called Super Mario 64 x 4 during its beta stages. It seems as though nothing is different from the original port, but the map is actually different in terms of how it functions. The map seems to zoom out when you're in a standstill, and when you're on the move, it zooms out showing more of the surrounding area. If you think about this though, this function doesn't seem very useful in the game, other than locating the star. On the other hand, the footage could have been edited in order to show off the map's rotation. Either way, the function doesn't exist in the final. We can see some peculiar platforms that were made in this video in the castle grounds, but I'm pretty sure these platforms were made just for testing. The next video was shot on the live convention stage during E3 2004. Taking a closer look into the bottom screen, we can see that there were portraits of Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Yoshi on the corners of the bottom screen. These portraits might have been used to switch from character to character within the game. Switching from the bottom to the top screen, again, not a big difference from the final. In fact, there are only two things that are different from the released version. First of which are the coins. It seems as though the coins used to be spinning sprites, and in the final, they turned them into full-fledged 3D polygon coins. The next thing is that when you get hit by an enemy, you drop coins instead of losing your health. Although, I'm willing to bet that Nintendo didn't want you to die early when you were playing the game on the show floor, so it's kind of a placeholder in a sense for the health meter. As always, there's a link for you guys in the description if you want to find out stuff for yourself, but honestly, there's not much we can talk about in terms of what was left within Super Mario 64 DS. In fact, the only interesting things that are in the code are some unused text, test maps, one very interesting unused mechanic, one unused enemy, and an unused painting graphic. Let's start with the unused text. This text would be displayed when you would fight Big Boo with Yoshi. Problem is, you can't even get into the level because Yoshi can't punch Boos. This means that, at some point, Yoshi might have been able to either defeat Boos somehow, or get into the level some other way. Speaking of fighting bosses with Yoshi, this unused text also has to do with our green dinosaur friend. This text is reserved for Chief Chili when you would fight him as Yoshi. However, just like the Big Boo unused text, you can't even access the level as Yoshi. You would need to get a Power Flower and use Luigi's transparency powers to go through the mirror and into the stage. All of these texts can be seen in the game if you glitch your way to the level, or use an action replay. There are two test maps here, one of which is interesting while the other doesn't really have anything. Let's start with this test map. While not anything really pops out at you besides the usual test objects and terrain, the checkerboard textures used for this test map actually hold a secret. These textures are ripped right out of Super Mario Sunshine's test maps. The other test map is, well, nothing special. Really, it's just a bunch of tox boxes moving around on a flat plane. Back to the checkerboard test map. This map actually holds a mechanic you don't see in the game. There are 3 floating boxes you don't see in the game that have the letters M, L, and W. Hitting them gives you that specific character's hat that you can use to transform into them. If the character is unlocked though, it gives you nothing. My guess as to why these hat boxes were scrapped is maybe the hats would have been too easy to get, or maybe they were only designed for testing the use of the caps. Have you ever thought about how there's red Koopas within the Mario franchise, and yet there are no red Koopas to be seen in Super Mario 64 or its DS port? Well, there was a point where they had red Koopas developed for the game, but it was scrapped. In fact, this version of the Koopa was scrapped so late in development that it's literally functional. The difference between the red Koopas and the green Koopas is that these Koopas run toward you instead of away from you. And when he hits you, you fly back instead of taking damage. Plus, you can't ride the red Koopa's shell either. Rather, you can kick the shell, and it'll knock any enemy that comes in contact with until it hits a wall, where it disappears. If Yoshi eats the shell, he can even spit fire, just like when you would eat red shells in Super Mario World. Here's one of the last things within Super Mario 64 DS's code, and it's this painting graphic. This graphic was going to be used when you would enter the Battle Fort level that was made exclusively for the DS port. The thing is, the way you would enter the Battle Fort in the game is either a hole in the ground in the castle courtyard, or the Versus mode, which only has this generic sky graphic for its painting. Thus, this painting goes unused. I will say that this painting looks like an early design of the course, as multiple things are missing, including the multicolored sides, and there are no squares on the sides as well. And those were the beta files that are in Super Mario 64 and its DS port. I will admit, the DS port didn't really have anything interesting, but the original game was almost entirely different in terms of design. With the changes that Nintendo made, especially in Mario's voice, I think they made the game as good as you can get for 1998. It's still considered to be a landmark in 3D platforming, and establish how 3D platforming games should work and function. As always, remember to like, share, and comment on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe as well. Oh, and remember to ring that bell to be notified when I upload more videos on this channel. Anyways, I'm NinFan237, I'll see you guys next time. Hi, thanks for watching the beta of Super Mario 64. This is really the end code, so I'm not reading a script here. But anyways, thanks for watching the beta of Super Mario 64. Before I show you guys some of my other videos, I have one little announcement and a special thanks to give. First of all, special thanks to my friend Cammy for making the animated Mario jumping into the folder, as well as making the icon for this series, which is the folder with the 1-up mushroom. Really cool. It's like really cool. I love it. Anyways, also the announcement is that I have a Discord. So yeah, that Discord is going to be for updates on the channel, for requests that you guys might have for maybe a beta files episode sometime in the future, and for other things, as well as maybe future live streams. Yes, I am planning future live streams sometime soon. I'm not exactly sure when, and I'm not even exactly sure if my internet can handle it. But I'm gonna be doing a test live stream soon, so tune in soon for that. Anyways, what else? Shoot, I'm forgetting something. Wow, this is really bad. I forgot what I was gonna say. This is why I usually have a script with me. Anyways, so I am hoping for 50 subs sometime soon, because at this moment I have 22 subs, and to be honest with you, I want to keep this channel growing, but the problem is that I only have 22 subs. That's not really enough. I feel, it's like, me personally, I feel like that's not enough subscribers to like keep this channel growing, so I'm hoping for 50 subs sometime soon. Anyways, but if you're already subscribed, remember to ring that bell to be notified down on the corner next to the subscribe button. And if you're new to this channel, like, comment, and subscribe the video, and ring that bell. Anyways, that should be about it. So here are my other 2 videos that you guys should go take a look at. One of them is the first video I ever made. It's called of the beta files. It's The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Go check that out, as well as a special series that I did for Sonic's 25th anniversary called Speaking Through History, where I look at beta stuff that was left in every single Sonic game that's represented in Generations, and play through Generations as well. But let me just say for the record that the gameplay is really bad because due to my computer, and well, I mean it's my setup's not really good for like recording and playing a game at the same time, so the game footage is pretty bad. But I don't know, maybe you guys want to go check that out, me bumbling like this. Anyways, I'm NinFan237. I'll see you guys next time.